NBA slate. As I mentioned it, I realized I have the wrong tag on the video, so I've got to change that. So we're doing our first look Tuesday podcast. Really nice Monday night for me. Back-to-back ones. I almost took down the monster. Ended up coming in second. Also was really deep in the slam. Actually, at one point was winning both of them with looking like I had a pretty good chance with pretty different lineups actually. So it was nice to have a good night. I feel like I've been on point with my NBA takes over the last few weeks, even though it hasn't always resulted in wins. Like Friday, I think I barely profited, but it was like nailing most of the right picks with one or two little glitches. So I'm excited for this little Tuesday slate. It's only a 6-gamer. We've got the big one. We'll call it another springboard slate. Sheets, how did you do? And what are your thoughts on this slate?
I did not do well last night, but I consider it a victory that I even noticed that Harden was out at all. So normally I would have just completely missed it. And what was good, it's so funny. I was tracking my lineups a little bit, my early ones, and they were doing pretty well. And then I had like a whole bunch of really, really good lineups that were lined up with Harden and Jokic, right? Just the two of them, and I was all ready to go. And it still said questionable on the DraftKings app, so it said probable, expects to play, whatever it is. I didn't even think about it, and then I said, it was literally 9:23, right? Like 7 minutes. I look and it says, and I see an O by his name. You got to be kidding me, right? So Stays, I gotta go. Give me a few minutes. I had to go scramble back, and the fact that I was able to make any changes at all is I consider that a victory.
Well, the good news is you had at least 5 of the games starting then, so at least you have some options.
Yeah, I get it, but it's listen, NBA. Nobody said NBA was easy, and listen, it's the fact that you can have back-to-back days like this, or even weeks within the same week to not even take down, but to be successful on slates like this. It's a lot of hard work, man. So good on you. I can't work that hard doing that. So
and that's my favorite part is the scrambling. Everybody else, and it is upsetting, but like if I know what I'm in for.
No.
I had all the pivots lined up. I had made sure that I could get Harden and at least one other Sixer in. The problem is my other Sixers were my downfall. Even Tobias Harris was in my 400 point lineup, who had only 20 fantasy points. He had like 18 of them in the first quarter. So. Did you happen to see that Philly game, by the way, what happened, which was nuts? Like Maxey went nuts, didn't even get to play in the fourth quarter. Well, they played 1 minute in the fourth quarter. They were down, they kind of gave up down 16 on the back, not on a back-to-back, but just as they were kind of, just beaten up. And they brought in the bench. The bench got down like 20, and then the bench came back and made it a 3-point game with a chance to tie at the end, but never, the starters were never getting back in. So it was just like a wild, it was like a 16-0 run, and in 3 minutes in a game that was completely over with. That people were like, why are Denver's guys even in still? It was just a wild game.
I'll tell you what nuts is Monsieur quickly went nuts.
He went nuts as we thought he would. He seems to always he's our Nas Reed now of the guard position.
And Grimes had a nice day.
Grimes was great. It was great for me that my differentiator on FanDuel, my no-owned. I played all the Milwaukee guys, Portis with Lopez and Middleton, which people didn't play them all three together. And then I played Jaden Ivey as a run back who put up 50, which was
who?
Jaden Ivey.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so he was my little run back, which is what helped me lead to the top. But anyway, we get into this slate. It's it's a 6-gamer with a lot of there's still a lot of questions even whether or not we see them. But I'll talk about where all the teams are standing as of right now because there's so much bunched up. The first game, we basically have Washington on the outside looking in. They're 3 games back of the 10 spot, and they've only got 5 games to go. The Bulls ahead of them have I believe the Bulls have 7 games to. Oh no, wait, they both have 7 games to go. Excuse me, sorry, I got that mixed up. So it's a long shot at best. With this Milwaukee team, I kind of expect them to play the guys at least as of right now, which I guess we don't need to speculate because it's the first game.
Wait, Milwaukee? You mean Boston?
I'm sorry, I meant Washington. Excuse me.
Oh, okay.
Washington on the outside looking in, just basically almost done. But my guess is that it seems like they're going to play whoever.
I got Beal is ruled out. I got Kuzma is ruled out.
They've all been out for a while. I mean, everybody who's listed in right now.
The other people? Okay.
Well, all the guys who are listed in right now. This has been the same lineup they've been running out there. So we do have to. It is kind of important because if they were straight tanking, trying to get that worst record, like sort of like Portland's doing right now, trying to get the 5th worst record, that would be one thing. But they've been actually somewhat, trying at least in their games. So it still feels kind of icky to me the whole game. I don't have any priorities on Boston as of right now, but I have no issue with Tatum, Smart, and Jaylen Brown is 9,900. And there's been a lot of news for those of you guys who don't pay attention to regular NBA stuff about Jaylen Brown being really upset. Like, I want to play somewhere where they want me. I thought that was a great springboard to his last 65 fantasy point game. I don't think I can play him at 9,900, but I do think it's interesting to notice stuff like that. Just when you hear these rumblings, they can sometimes work one way or the other. The guy might disappear from the offense, or he might become like, just, no, I'll show you what I can do kind of a thing. I think Porzingis, are they just counting on him? Not like, this is bizarre to me, the projection on him. Why is he projected like 10 points lower than he was the other day? I know it's Boston, but their defense has been one of the bottom defenses in the league since the All-Star break. Feels like a kind of an egregious projection on him to me. Even though it might even be in line with his real what his projection should be. It's not in line with what his projections have been without Kuzma and Beal. So I have Porzingis, then Avdia, then DeLon Wright. I think I might even end up making Avdia more of a priority than Porzingis. He's another one. Why is he projecting for 28 fantasy points? It just seems like a ridiculous, like a early projection for a guy who's basically gone nuts without Kuzma this season. So I'm very high on Avdia, and I think they can play Avdia and still tank. He's put up 30 in the last games. I mean, he's put up 37, 33, 47, and 37. And 2 of those had Beal and one of them had Kuzma and Beal. And why is he projected to score 28 fantasy points? So I just think it's a mistake. I like the Avdia the best. I think now that I think about it, and Porzingis, those would be my two plays. And I don't think they're going to get ownership.
I like the other guys all right too. Monty Morris, if he plays, he didn't play the last game, but if he comes back, I mean, it's reasonable at 4,800. And I think if Gafford plays, again, we don't know if that's going to happen either. But I think at 4,800, he's probably reasonable also. Kristoff, yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly why he's projecting the way he is either. That's kind of what I'm looking at right now. And he's not a bad player or anything like that. And if other guys kind of drop off, like if Shea doesn't play, then it's just more, it brings up more of a need to just get pure fantasy points. So Porzingis will then get probably an upgrade on the slate. And on the Boston side, so where's Boston as far as standings go? Are they trying to win and all that?
Oh yeah, Boston's in second place, so game and a half back of first. I believe they're still a game and a half, and yeah, they're a game and a half out of first. 2 games out of first, and 3 games up on Philly. So just sort of getting close to where they're still making the push for the number 1 seed, but it's fairly unlikely. I mean, not unlikely, but it's just Milwaukee doesn't lose a whole lot. But they've got a chance still, so they're gonna put their best foot forward. They're gonna try to win every game. And by the way, I just want to add that I wasn't saying that Porzingis isn't it's not even a misaccurate projection. It's just a different projection than we've ever seen him without these guys. It's much lower. It's not that he has always crushed or anything. Avdia is more that guy. I just wanted to throw that out there because I sort of could have confused people with what I was saying. I did want to mention I like Robert Williams in this game. He's my as a GPP play. Assuming that Robert Williams is good to go, I think that you might see a little bit of an uptick in minute with him on the court. They're one of the better teams, and this is a great kind of matchup for him. At low ownership, Robert Williams, if we don't hear about great value by the end of the day, is certainly on my list. So, yeah, that's what I've got.
So I think Tatum is my favorite of the. I mean, assuming, like I said, there's a motivation. I mean, there's not a lot of guys over 10K today, right? So there's just him and Shea. Everybody else is
right
under 10K, I think. So it's kind of hard to deny that just the raw fantasy points from Tatum if he plays. And what's his name? Jaylen Brown also, again, just on pure fantasy points is probably worth a look here. So Porzingis, sure. Tatum, sure. Brown, sure. I mean, I don't think that they're. Boy, I was about to say I don't think they're priorities, but the more I think about it, maybe Tatum is a priority. I don't know. I'd have to think about this a little more.
Yeah, we'll figure it out as we go through this slate. I think right now it looks like it'd be hard to get him in, not hard to get him in, but hard to want to be excited about getting him in, but I think he's completely reasonable. Tatum, yeah. I mean, I'll leave him up there, but I don't have as much love. I just think it's important to keep an eye out for the backcourt situation in Washington. One thing is, even when Morris was playing, he's being outperformed regularly by DeLon Wright and by even to some extent by what's his name, Jordan Goodwin. And it is nerve-wracking with Washington because it's hard to know whether they do the tank now and try to lose the rest of their games and see how many extra lottery balls, whether they're getting 8% or 10% of the chance of the number one. But I don't know. That's pretty much it. Do you want to move on to a more fun game? I think the next one is not going to be more fun, but the one after that will be.
I don't think anything's fun for a little while, but we'll start with Miami.
I
think the next two games are just kind of, I don't know. We'll see. But Miami, Toronto, I have nothing here. You have anything here?
I like Jimmy Butler. Competitive game. It's that must-win time. They're tied, desperately trying to get out of that seven spot, so they don't have to play the play-in. That always feels like a good Jimmy Butler bad projection night to me. So I'm totally good with Jimmy Butler and Bam. To be honest with you, I think both those guys are totally reasonable. Again, it's first look, so I'm going to have more guys on my list than I will later today. I think Scotty Barnes has a very affordable price, and at 6,200, I think that's reasonable. I'm not all that excited about anything else from Toronto, but there's still to have a no own Siakam, Podol, Van Vliet. Yeah, maybe by the end of the day I come on to it. Early look is just Scotty Barnes and Butler and Bam for me as guys who I'm really strongly considering.
Remind me the way the play-in stuff works.
So you have the 7 plays the 8 seed, and the 9 plays the 10. Whoever wins the 9-10 has to win 2 games to get into the 8 seed. The 7-8 game, whoever wins that one game goes to the 7 seed.
Okay.
But each year there's been a team that was in the 7-8 game that has been out. So we'll see. Anyway, go ahead.
So I really don't have much of anything. What about so you like something out of Cleveland, Atlanta? I guess Mitchell and Garland and Mobley. I mean, they're my favorites of the game, but yeah, I suppose. Now this is weird. Why do I not have? Is Trae Young not playing? Oh, there's Trae Young, but I don't really have him. What?
So for anybody who wants to really think about playing Trae Young, and this price is kind of egregious even with this situation, I just want to point out his shots are like this guy hasn't shot 20 times in 6 games. We didn't used to see 2 games where Trae Young didn't shoot 20 plus times, and usually it'd be more like 25 or 30. He's just not. It's just not the same thing anymore in Quinn Snyder's offense. And his usage, while it occasionally will tick up into the mid 30s, like it used to live, it's down in the 20s a lot of games now. DeJounte Murray, and they're playing a little bit better basketball because of it. No surprise there. But yeah, I like the first of all on the Cleveland side, I really like Darius Garland. I know we haven't seen the big number from him in a while. I just think that price is very tempting, and I think if you're not playing him at first look, I think you really want to make sure to prioritize one of he or Mitchell. I do think that again, another team that is in a funny position because they've got, the Cavs are 1.5 back at the Sixers for the 3 seed. They would love to be in the 3 seed, get out of that 4-5. But I also think that there's like no chance of them being caught by the Knicks because they're 5 games up on the Knicks. So you might see the Cavs take it a little bit easy, but that doesn't really seem to be this team's MO. I think between Garland, I actually like Karis LeVert as a tournament play. If you're not, like if I wasn't playing Mitchell or Garland, I would play LeVert. And then I think both bigs are in play. I like this matchup for both of them. It's a pace up against Atlanta. Should be tons of opportunities for rebounds, blocks, steals, all that kind of stuff. And then on the other side, maybe we just keep it, we keep it simple, stupid, and we go with the Trae Young at 9,100. Even though, yes, it's not been beautiful. First of all, how often is he ever really going to kill you here? What's he going to get you, 40? It's not going to kill your lineup. It's a guy. It's just a matter of whether you're worried about him having a high enough ceiling. But I kind of like the idea of playing Trae Young at 9,100 instead of some of the 10K guys. And if not for him, I think that DeJounte Murray is completely reasonable. So And then I think John Collins is in play. Just a lot of guys who seem like reasonably priced that I'm willing to take shots on in this game. And there's not a whole lot I love on this slate in general. So this early on looks to me like a game that I'm gonna want to, as you would say, do some business in.
Charlotte, Oklahoma City. If we move forward, I guess I'll start with Oklahoma City. I think Shea is going to sit. He got hurt in his last game. I think he finished it, but from what they said, his ankle wasn't looking very good. This is the first end of a back-to-back. I don't know. I just think he sits. But and we don't get any confirmation before lock or whatever. I would speculate on that a little bit. And one of the reasons why is that if he is in fact out, I mean, it just frees up so much usage. So I think we could talk about that a little bit. First of all, there'd be Isaiah Joe at 4,400 if in fact Shea got ruled out. There would be J.A.L. Williams 6,700, who whatchamacallit. He the last bunch of games that what's his name was out, it was actually him that was bringing the ball up the court quite a bit. So I would consider that also. I don't think I would go to Giddey for some reason. If in fact Shea was out, I would rather go to those other guys. Now, if in fact Shea does play, I like Shea. So it seems like a pretty, let's say, easy thing to do. But only because it starts at 7. The slate starts at 7, and this game is like the 4th game on the board. So you are going to have to make some kind of decisions about these 7 o'clock games. But I do think there's a very legitimate chance that he does sit, and there's a legitimate chance that we don't know about it until later. On the Charlotte side, I like Nick Richards again at 4,700, as will the rest of the United States of America. Aside from that, like even though Rozier is out, I don't know exactly where to go. It doesn't seem right to play Dennis Smith Jr. at 7K, but maybe we're supposed to. And Kelly Oubre at 6,800 at 35% ownership. I don't know if I want to do that either. So I'm a little confused, but I think that the OKC side is certainly one that requires very, very strong monitoring and planning.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, and including that being a little confused because you're trying to find someone on Charlotte who's down guys. They're doing this weird center rotation where they sit one of them out and then they split up the minutes between the other two. So of course, Richard stands out as being a good value. I'm not sure that, I'm just gonna take a look at his minutes projection. Got him at 28. I think that there's definitely downside on that, and I think there's also upside on it, but I don't think it's very much upside. Kai Jones or Richards. If you're not going to play Richards, I do think playing Kai Jones is a good idea. There's your ultimate value at 3K. I have no problem playing Oubre if he plays. Charlotte's had a little bit of a renaissance lately. They've been playing pretty good basketball with these short things. They just beat Dallas twice in a row, who's desperately trying to win. And my take is that, look, if Shea isn't hobbling and can walk, and he's not playing, I don't know what the hell Oklahoma City's doing. They are not tank. It's too late for them to tank. There's no, it's not too late for them to tank. It's too late for them to tank far. They're not going to get that. They're not going to increase the lottery odds. Well, they won't have any lottery odds to make the playoffs. They're 2 games out of the 6th spot, and they're 3 games out of the 4th spot. I mean, that's crazy. That's how bunched up the West is. If they have a back-to-back here where they can really sort of put themselves in great position because they've got two of the worst teams in the NBA with Charlotte and Detroit coming in. I don't understand if they don't play Shea tonight, it would really confuse me. But I mean, obviously we'd have to load up on the other guys. I would love Jalen Williams and Giddey. Giddey just put up 64 the other night with both of these guys. Like he's got a monster ceiling. I also think, assuming that Shea does play, like you said, I like him. But that's what it's really going to come down to, and that's going to be a full hour after lock. So as of right now, if Shea plays, I probably am going to play some Shea, and I'm also still okay with the Giddey and Jalen, and the Jalen Williams no Y, and the Jalen Williams with a Y, and like Jalen Williams with a Y, 25 minutes, 3 games in a row. I don't really care that he's only been right around 28 in one of them. I'll take a shot on that. And Lou Dort at 54. I feel like the whole starting lineup is in play. assuming that they're doing their playoff push thing. The other guy that you'd include, especially if Shea is out, would be Isaiah Joe, and I think he's even a reasonable play with Shea in. So a lot to look at in this game because you're going to get pretty chalky. Charlotte, Svi, I think DSJ will have some ownership if Oubre's out. If Oubre's in, I think Oubre will be extremely popular. They just priced up PJ Washington quite a bit. It's kind of hard to get to him. I don't know what I'm going to end up doing with Charlotte yet, and a lot of it depends on what happens with Oubre. I think if Oubre plays, I'll probably play him and Richards. I think if Oubre doesn't play, I'll be more open to Dennis Smith Jr., Kai Jones, Nick Richards. And I think that getting a little bit of exposure to some of the guys off the bench, whether it be the long shot plays, if Oubre's out, like if Oubre's out, Bryce McGowan's and James Bouknight, I would have in my group of players. Although I don't know how likely I would be to use any of them.
If who is out?
If Oubre's out,
okay.
Just as thin value plays. I mean, and maybe not crazy thin. We don't have a ton of value yet on this slate. Maybe we will later on today, but this seems like the natural game that would be fun to stack in like a mid-tier way if Shea is out. If Shea is in, I like Shea. That's where I'm at.
So they were doing they were on top of the Tyus Jones thing for a little while. You know, when they knew that Morant was going to be out, had him at 6,900, had him 7K, which was fair. And then I guess they weren't ready for Morant
got hurt.
What?
Yeah. There's nothing they can do. Morant got hurt. Like, they can't do anything about predicting that.
No. So now Ty Jones is you hate this word, but now Ty Jones is a lock. Right?
He'll be locked into my lineup, tell you that.
And then there's Bane and Jaren Jackson. You know, all three guys are going to be projecting pretty well, but Tyus Jones is the start of it. And then it depends on how you want to deal with construction. Like, do you want to have some fun and find some Orlando guy to play? I mean, nobody projects all that great, but you could play Banchero, certainly. Play Wendell Carter Jr. if you want to do that. What's cool about it is, Memphis value is not taking up either of those. Sort of taking up one of the forward spots, but not really. So because you can play them both, so you can stack this game if you feel like it. I would use Banchero or Wendell Carter Jr. for those purposes, I guess. But yeah, I mean, this Memphis value is pretty good.
Yeah, I think that all of the, just starting on Orlando for me, I think all of Orlando is, as always, I'm not going to fault you for any of them, and yet none of them truly stand out as being great plays. Carter, if I had to rank, I guess I would go Banchero, Carter, Wagner, maybe Banchero, Wagner, Carter because of positions. And then I think that getting, then Suggs or Fultz, I guess. On Memphis' side, it's really hard not to be overweight here. But, one of these guys has let us down most of the time in this situation, and it's never been Tyus, really. Even when he's had bad games, he still kind of gets there. So I think that in priority for Memphis, Tyus, then Bane, then Triple J for me, but those are really close, Bane and Triple J. And then if you wanted to get into the other stuff, which I'm happy to do, I think Aldama is completely in play. Definitely showed his ceiling, and Dylan Brooks can get you 6x if he has a good night, and Xavier Tillman because they play big. So I'm interested in all those guys to different levels of extent. But this is the most ownership from any team. At first look, I'm looking at least two Memphis, probably in every lineup. If the slate locked right now, it would be 2 or 3 Memphis probably in every lineup for me.
And there's no issue with Ty Jones and Bane, for example. There's no issues with any of this.
No, not at all.
All right, so you have a 2-hour break, and then you get the late night hammer, which you get some hammer out of this if you want to know the truth. I mean, I don't know. Curry's cheap enough at 9,600. Draymond and what's his name, and Kevon Looney. Although I don't usually like to use Looney to take up a center spot, but projects well enough. And on New Orleans, I mean, you have Valanciunas playing the minutes, so I like that, and I like the Ingram. So if you didn't, if you're out all night and just reserved lineups, oh my God, I didn't put anything in. I mean, you could make a case for you could really make a case for playing nothing but these last 3 games.
And maybe that is the right case because we are waiting on the Shea information, which does sort of change a lot of the slate. Yeah. Maybe that's a reasonable take by you, Sheets. I think that makes a lot of sense. And on the other side, I mean, they only had to play 2.5 quarters last night, basically in New Orleans in that game. But it is traveling to Golden State. This is going to be,
what, from Portland to Golden State?
No, yeah, you're right. For some reason, I was thinking of them as home last night because I was watching the game and they're similar floors. Yeah, I mean, I think that both Ingram and McCollum are in play on the other side, and I think that I'm not prioritizing any of these guys right now, but I do think that like one of Clay, Poole, or Curry is probably not a bad idea as a little group of players to try to make sure you have some of. I also think this could be a really good sneaky Kevon Looney spot. He's put up some really big games lately when they've played against teams that have bigs. And he's just a really good rebounder. And those double doubles are basically worth 30 fantasy points on their own. And then if he has a little bit of an extra big game, he ends up with like 40 or 50. So I see Looney as being kind of like an interesting play tonight. I got a lot of guys on my list at first look, but most of the focus ones are going to be obviously like Tyus Jones. I actually think Tyus Jones, like, I don't even know how I would go about trying to fade him. Maybe I'll throw one cheap lineup in just to see what happens. But Tyus Jones will be in like all my lineups. I do like Richards, but I think there's some variance there. So I think putting one of Richards or Kai Jones in your lineup is probably the way that I would treat it. I think Jalen Williams is interesting as a value play on this kind of ugly, no value slate, but there could be value later. Fortunately, he's in one of those games. And then the other Memphis stuff, the Desmond Bane, Aldama, some other things that I've got down here, the guys that I like a little more than maybe the field does, Jared Allen, Jimmy Butler, and Denny Avdia would be my 3.
Well, presuming, by the way, that Jared Allen plays as well.
Yeah. Mark wrote something that I couldn't disagree with here more. I just want to throw this out there. It's funny that OKC is not really trying to win at times, even though they're in the play-in game as of right now. They don't deserve it. Hopefully the Mavs can step up. I would say the opposite. I would say that means they do deserve it more and that the Mavs absolutely do not deserve it. The Mavs have been one of the worst teams in the NBA since they got Kyrie. They'll probably end up squeaking in there. But I don't think I also don't think OKC is flat out trying to lose. They were trying to win those games when they had their guys. And for what it's worth, I mean, they have the number 2 pick in the draft coming back for them next year. It's not like they're not getting another pick anyway. So they also have somebody else. I can't remember whose other pick they have, but they're not. Even still, they're only going to end up with like a 1% chance for the number 1 pick. It's probably not worth it for them to tank out. That city could use a little bit of a playoff push. So I'm hoping that they do play their guys tonight for what it's worth.
Just for the hell of it, we'll.
Let's go to FanDuel.
No. What I was going to do is run a SaberSim build, but you can talk about FanDuel while I fire this up.
Okay, while you do that real quick, Tyus Jones remains equally a lock over there. Dennis Smith Jr. more affordable and fits in pricing wise at 6,500. Svi a better play over there, 4,200. Jaren Jackson's skill set a little bit better, so I'll find more of him over there. Those are the main ones for me. There's not a whole lot of maybe it's easy. Maybe you could argue that Tillman a little bit more over there. Those are the main ones for me. Everything else is proportionally similar. Oh, Giddey is a much better play over there at 70. Well, not much better, but he fits in better price wise. 7,900 out of their price range versus the 8,200 on DraftKings. It's a big difference.
So not surprisingly, we're getting almost 100% Tyus Jones. I actually thought it would be 100, but whatever. 95% Tyus Jones, 91% Nick Richards, and then pretty much all the other guys we talked about. Oubre, Bane, Jaren Jackson. You mentioned Svi. We didn't talk about Scotty Barnes. I'd be getting a decent amount of that. Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Williams, Banchero. Poole shows up. That's interesting. Poole's only 5,900. Okay.
I know. And the problem is, the thing is, like, he's killed me at these things whenever I try to take those chances. But remember, he wasn't always getting there when Steph was out. You know what I mean? And then he was like, but like, I mean, he's been red hot lately. So he put up 43 and 39 in the last 2 games. I still think that he's just I feel like he's a tournament play that's going to get cash game ownership at the moment. So that's where I'm at on him. But yeah, it should be a fun one. Sheets, correct me. Are you available tonight?
I'm out for live.
You're out tonight. Okay, my fault. So I will be live at 6 Eastern. Guys, get in there with your questions. Get in there with the thoughts, and we'll have a nice back and forth. I'll go through probably game by game again, just because it's a small slate, easier to manage than like last night's. And I do want to point out one other thing. The premium Discord, first of all, if you're a member, you have to be in the premium Discord. Last night, when everybody says, what do we do? What do we do with all this stuff? So I just took a picture of, and I wouldn't do this if I was showing everybody in the world this, but we have a small group of members. And I said, okay, here's what I'm doing. And I only got it out probably 8 minutes before lock or 7 minutes before lock or something like that, of the lock of the later games. But all of my adjustments were in there, and that included the lineup, my 2 FanDuel lineups, which were both in the top 1% of all lineups on FanDuel. They were right there for you. So I'm just telling you, it's really handy to have that. And you've got a smart group of people in there to bounce questions off. I really think that's one of the best value adds you're going to get. There's not another site or not another person who plays for a living. And I don't want people to copy my lineups already after the fact. So some guys have already locked anyway, but it's really, really good to get that help from people who know, and then also from other people in the chat that know really well. There's a really intelligent group in our Discord. Anyway, Sheets, anything else before we get out of here?
And one other guy I want to ask you about again, just because I'm just looking at a couple of different ideas here, is I mentioned the Dennis Smith Jr. Is it a bad play at 7K?
No, I don't think it's a bad play. I mean, they're down. If Oubre's out, especially, it's a good play. But like it's probably already a good enough play with Hayward already. I mean, Hayward, Rozier, like all these guys gone. I think it's totally reasonable.
What did Oubre?
By the way, PJ Washington didn't mention, put up 46 and 48 the last 2 games, and he's 7,800 against the weakest interior defense in the NBA. I might need to revisit a PJ Washington build, but I will get my core plays up later in the day. I will get my early builds up later in the day, because it's basically, we just know there's going to be news that we don't know about, and it just happens every day. So always going to be later in March and April for NBA when I get my plays out, but I will post them, and hopefully we can make some money today.
Sounds good.
Good luck, everybody.